All right. Welcome to another Viewfinders interview live stream. We've got Douglas Sonders here. You definitely, I'm sure you know his work, but I am so excited to have Doug here. Like we go back. I will introduce you. I'll let you speak in a second, but like we go back.
Yeah.
Like Doug is one of the, um, like Doug is like the first pro photographer that I feel like, I was like friendly with, like online. I mean, like we're going back like 10 years ago,
Yeah,
and
it's been a long time.
and just shit posting and stuff, and we've never
I loved
stopped.
it.
And it's been really cool. And you are, I mean, and Doug is not just a photographer, but like now you're producer, filmmaker, director, like all this incredible stuff. So we're gonna definitely get into that. But I still want to talk about the photography because that's that's what we're talking about. But you are so much more than that, and I'm so excited to get into it. So welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. We've been Twitter friends for a long time, and then obviously we ran into each other like through various car events and shoots and stuff over the years now because it's a small community.
Well, you're leaving out our biggest collaboration, which was the Genesis
Oh my God.
project.
I'm like, what's really funny is I actually have this memory of you and me and like the Hearst Publishing, which owns Road and Track Car Driver, Hearst Publishing advertising team in a diner in Tarrytown, New York. And I remember I was just sitting here thinking about how like it was Maury, one of the creative directors there, and at the time, and you and me talking in a diner in Tarrytown, and I could not for the life of me remember why we were there. And now I forgot we were doing an entire like major ad campaign for Genesis, so I just forgot.
Were we in Tarrytown or New Paltz?
Oh my God, maybe it was New Paltz.
New Paltz was where the shoot was. I don't remember exactly the distance, but that was for anyone. That was a project. It was a Genesis campaign.
And we were your desk.
Not yet. It was a Genesis campaign where we were. You were directing, you were producing, you had a whole crew. You had a 4Runner rigged up with like, car to car, like, poles and all the stuff, all the rigging to shoot video from the car. And I was one of the talent. I was one of the influencers. I was on camera talking about car photography and all that. And it was very cool. And you were much busier than me, and you had a lot of people to direct. But it was really cool to see your whole traveling operation in action after, just seeing the work and seeing a little bit about it. But the funny thing is about that is I had to be on camera, and I was like, this like 2 weeks before this, I had attempted to, I'm not going to say cut my own hair, but I'm going to say trim. When you have like the beard trimmer and then you're like, you know what, like maybe I could thin out right here. And this was when my hair was like much shorter, obviously. And I was like, maybe I can, and I was like, oh, I took off too much, and like, or I just sort of followed the shape of my head too far. I was like, oh, this is bad. And so I had to go
about that actually, about your haircut being a problem when you weren't around.
I had to go to, I hate how I looked because I had to go to the barber and be like, can you fix this? And it's like, well, we can't add it back, so we have to take off more. It was a whole thing, but
it looks great.
A lot of fun. Thank you. I don't know about all that, but that was a very cool memory for me. Obviously, just a blip on the radar for you. I see how it is, but it's okay.
No, it's all blurred for me.
So we'll start with this Volkswagen project, and then we'll talk about a little bit about your history and stuff and going back. I'm just like so excited to get into all this. Yeah. So we'll jump around a little bit, but I'm going to add in the work here. This was the project, and you gave me a backstory on this that was extremely cool. So why don't you tell us about this project?
Yeah, I'm very lucky that agencies and brands trust us. This one is a funny one because I'd done stuff for VW and I knew their creative team. They're awesome for a long time. And they go, hey, we want to launch the Arteon, the new flagship VW in US. We want to do it in a fun, artistic way. If we gave you like a decent amount of money and just gave you the car, could you create a gallery art series for it? And I'm like, okay. And then, it's like the normal questions like, oh, what's the creative brief? What's the, what's the deliverable? And I go, and uh, and so I like put together a deck as I do for any project. I'll do a PowerPoint of like my backstory or like our production company, why we want to do this project, how we'd execute it, and our mood board. Generally, like, so we don't like run and going like, here's my website, boom, and hope. We've learned that fun fact if you're a photographer pitching for an ad campaign, highly recommend build a really nice PowerPoint, even though it's 5 pages. Again, with your background of like you and your work, why you're excited about this project, how you plan to execute it, and then maybe like a mood board, which is like a collage of images of kind of like the vibe of what you want to accomplish visually, creatively. And so, but yeah, they generally just, the car showed up in front of my apartment with no supervision. It was a pre-production model and literally dropped off when I lived in downtown LA. I just looked out my window and I saw a yellow Arteon that wasn't even out in this country, just being rolled out of the back of a reliable truck. We go downstairs
Wow.
and I go, so am I able to move it? And the guy's like, and he gave me the keys for it. And it was like a Christmas tree of warning lights on the dash. And nothing against VW. It was a pre-production model. It wasn't like meant to be driven around.
Right.
But it needed gas. It had no gas in it. So I just, no plates or anything. I just drove it around the corner to get gas. And I was driving around an unreleased vehicle and nobody was like, hide it or something. It was out in Europe. So I don't think it was a huge deal. But anyway,
Yeah.
so we
And there was big delays with getting it like federalized or something, because it was promised like August 2019 and ended up being like a year later or year and a half or something.
Yeah, that's funny because there are people pretty excited about this car. I'm more of an Audi guy in my history than I was a Volkswagen guy. Well, now I'm a Volkswagen guy since I had a Porsche, but it was funny. People would like freak out when they saw us shooting in LA and like going, oh my God, that's the Arteon. It's not even out yet. Meanwhile, I was just driving around LA getting gas and driving, like going to studio and stuff. And Volkswagen didn't like give us like, oh, you should tow it or something. But it was just parked in my garage in LA under a wrap. And anyway, we had fun. We cast 2 really cool models, like a big influencer following. They're great. Chris Leanne and Shelby, they're awesome people, super talented models. And I was super nervous because, to be honest, I mean, I've 20 years of shooting experience, but they gave us a decent budget and it's for the launch of a vehicle. And they literally didn't give us any guidance at all, which I respect, but it's also like very nerve wracking because, you could do this totally wrong and they'd hate it. And then we shot it and they're like, hey, neat. And I go, so what are we doing with these photos? And they go, we're taking over the Peterson Museum, make some prints. And so I got priced out 8-foot wide archival prints to be printed. Shot this with the phase 1 150 megapixel, which is an amazing, the XF body with the IQ CMOS back. It's a great dynamic range, great shots, really easy to shoot. Most of this is all in camera. And
I love the mirrors and everything.
Oh, thanks. I
so
take credit.
cool.
My buddy Web Bland he nicely asked, can I use your mirror idea? And he shot some Dodge campaign using the mirrors. I started
Awesome.
a trend, kids.
Yeah, he's a great dude too.
It is great. So yeah, it was fun. And so went up in the Peterson Museum, big 8-foot wide prints. By the way, it's very expensive to make 8-foot wide prints. It costs, I don't mind saying, because the client was lovely enough to pay for it. It was $20,000 to print 8 4-foot wide prints. 8-foot wide prints. 8-foot wide prints. And then I decided we had produced, we have an augmented reality software company, and we have, I executive produced the creation of Jeep's augmented reality car configuration platform. And I'm not going to assume that I'm the greatest coder and 3D asset developer, but I know a little bit. And so I was really inspired. And so I created an app with like 3 days notice where the press, when we had the event, could hold up iPads and it would react to the art pieces, and they would have like 3D objects and animations pop out of the images, and it
Wow.
was super well received. And I said, Volkswagen, just pay me, I don't know, $1,000 for the assets, because it was like I had to buy some stock 3D assets and repurpose them into the design. Otherwise, I just coded it all myself and then rented some iPads just because I really, really, really wanted to do it. And it was cool to see my work up in the Peterson, all in over the first floor during the. It was actually during the Porsche exhibit a few years ago.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think I visited at that time. Yeah, it's very cool. So cool.
Thank
Um,
you.
so what was your beginnings?
uh, yeah, I mean, I went to RIT for a photo degree a long million years ago. It's very funny feeling I'm one of the old guys now. I don't feel, other than my back, I don't feel like that old guy, but I've been doing this a long time. And got my ad photo degree, and everybody else was partying, and I was just so desperate not to have to move into back to my dad's house after school. I didn't want to be that guy, or like go back to New York and just be just broke like everybody. I mean, we're all broke, you get out of school, and I wanted to like work. They used to be like, oh, you're gonna assist for you got to assist for a couple of years. That's what they'd say, you like an apprenticeship, assist for a couple of years, and then you'll get good enough. And there's some amazing photographers I know took that route and have amazing careers. My buddy Chad Griffith, an amazing celebrity photographer, and he apprenticed under like an amazing shooter, of whose name I forget, but because it's been so many years. But I've followed Chad, and he does awesome work. But for me, I wanted to just go into it, and my professors didn't think I was particularly good. I think during my senior critique, Dennis Defabaugh said, "You would be a great family portrait photographer." And, it hurt my feelings, but I also am a very determined guy. And at that time, I had convinced DuPont Registry to hire me for Celebrity Car Magazine back in the Dubs and Rides era,
Best
of
era.
magazines. Yeah, that was a great era. That's actually, I worked with Brian Scotto shooting rappers for in their cars for rides a million years ago, back when Scotto was before he was rich and famous with Jim Connor,
Hmm.
doing that with Ken Block. And so, um, we have that OG like New York, that time period.
Yeah.
But that was fun. That area treated me well. So Celebrity Car said, sure, you can be on our shoot for a magazine. They really, honestly, I went to the newsstand and looked at a bunch of magazines and tried to find the magazine that seemed to have like the best coverage. Like it wasn't like a regional Rochester, New York or Northern Virginia magazine, but like a national magazine, but that they didn't know what they're doing with creative. And that was DuPont Registry. And they had Celebrity Car Magazine, and it was just like celebrities in their cars, and it was like really poorly designed and really poorly shot. And I go, they would definitely hire a college student. So I reached out to them. I did a bunch of like cold calls. I would go to the magazine, look at the masthead. I would call the sales department, and then because they don't have like direct numbers or emails to the creative director, and then I would say, oh, I called the wrong number. Could you connect me to the creative director, this person on the masthead? And they, sure. And they just hit the switchboard, and they would go, hello. And so, yeah, I convinced them, I sent them some random stuff I shot. I don't think they knew I was like 18 or 19 or something. And, and then they said, sure, maybe we'll call you. And they're very nice. And then I taught myself what music agents were, and I just called a million music agents. And I didn't realize there's a difference between agents and publicists, because agents book them for concerts, not for magazine press stuff. But anyway, I emailed 100 of them and called them, and I got this band Three Doors Down to be in it because they were releasing a new album. And so I flew to the Gulf Coast of Mississippi and borrowed, returned it eventually, a bunch of equipment from my school, and told
Hmm.
my professors that I would not be back for my midterms, and why. And they were honestly pretty chill, and I was a good student. Uh, and they go, okay. And I flew down there and I took portraits at all their homes. No assistant. I shot it with my white lightning strobes. back in the day with like no sandbags, and they would like blow off in the wind.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
and,
been there.
and yeah, anyway, I'll wrap this story up. But anyway, it was a wild story. I mean, I went to all 4 of their homes. I drove 700 miles over 2 days, and I'd never been down there before. It was like pre-GPS era. I rented a pickup truck because I thought that was what you're supposed to do when you're in Alabama and Mississippi. I didn't know. I'm from DC, and the guys are super nice. And they said, we could use a tour photographer. You're a sweet kid. And I had meanwhile sold my '66 Mustang to pay for. It was pretty shitty, but it was decent enough to pay for Canon, early Canon digital, one of the first ones. And so I convinced, after they kind of casually mentioned it, I harassed their manager and I harassed Universal Records, and they finally put me on a salary and put me on tour. And I toured the country back when they were the #1 rock band in America.
Wow.
Back when that was like Daughtry and Three Doors Down and Hinder and Nickelback. That was like that era.
Right. Yeah.
I toured with like all those guys, Alter Bridge and whatever. But I shot like pretty cool lifestyle tour stuff. But I brought my strobes with me under the bus, and I begged them to let me take portraits of them for like an album cover, because that was my dream. And finally, I dragged them. They're like, finally go find Doug after like a month of touring. On like a Wednesday at noon, they said they'd let me take their picture. And we're in the backstage of this concert arena, and there's this like cool shed. It's like all metal, and I start dragging them all out of their beds because they're all hungover from the night before, just being rock stars. I'm like, get up! It's time for your photo. Come on! And I'm like, just literally like banging on there, and I'm like some stupid kid, and I'm trying to. They treat me like a little brother. They're always very nice to me. Drag them out. Took their photos in like 5-10 minutes. I literally was getting heat strokes. It was like 100 degrees already, and anyway, that photo ended up getting purchased by Universal. Was seen like billboards all over the world, and they'd use it for all sorts of posters and things. And that started me off I started doing a bunch of album cover stuff. And I was one of the first photographers for iTunes. I started shooting for Billboard, started shooting for Rolling Stone. We did Howard Stern, we did Leno, we did Letterman. They would just bring me on set. And again, them being the #1 album at the time, and me being just a classy fellow, always carrying business cards around, and very aggressive, politely aggressive on follow-up when it came to business.
Yeah.
I started kind of working my way up to and then ultimately shooting for Time and National Geographic. And now only a couple things as a still photographer back in the day, but then I started pioneered in the VR space and produced their first ever VR documentary for Nat Geo, and then for AOL, and won some awards in that space. And now I'm working on production side, among other things, for Nat Geo. Funny enough, much bigger stuff than I would have dreamed as my original goals of being a photographer for Nat Geo.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's pretty amazing to be beyond your dreams, because you have always dreamed so big, and your work is just huge. Like, your projects are just big. Like, it's so,
Oh,
I mean,
thanks.
you're just very ambitious. It's just like extremely ambitious, and you pull it off, and obviously, and it's really cool. But that is an amazing story about just
That was a
the whole
lot.
thing, but also calling the magazines, and getting the right person. Like, that is so, like, that hustle, like that. I don't have that in me.
No,
I don't know. I will. Maybe it's something I can learn when I'll be 50, and I'll figure it out one day.
I feel like that's a lost art, and because like people just text and email, and I mean these days we have robocalls. People don't want to pick up phones, and creative
Yeah.
and like magazines don't exist anymore. My favorite, I mean they exist, but
Right.
my favorite magazines don't. My dreams of shooting the cover of Rolling Stone just faded away because they don't really care about their print covers now. It's digital covers.
Right.
I love the concept of going to like a newsstand and picking up and seeing my work. I've shot many magazine covers, but that's all past. That time has passed. But I think that art of hustling and cold calling to that degree, I don't think it exists anymore. I think it just the way the nature of the world is of being an artist. We just produced, I can't say who it is, a major celebrity book cover shoot. And I didn't shoot it, I produced it, a fairly large budget, for Amazon Publishing. And again, I can't say, it was a celebrity book series, and they hired a photographer, and the guy was not, oh boy, I don't want to get in trouble. He was not a good shooter. He was popular. I'll just speak in general terms. He was popular on social media and a nice guy.
Right.
Had done things for the community where people really respected him in a way. And I think his presence as a person and a social media personality was greater than he was young in his career, and is honestly, he was like shooting stuff, but like left all the overhead lights on. Half of his stuff had motion blur. Didn't realize he was shooting at like 3200 ISO with like 1/30th of a second for portraits, and he didn't realize he was shooting like his images kind of looked a little blurry, and but we
Yeah.
paid him.
Well, I mean, I can tell you, it's such a, between getting, you could post good things on social media and that doesn't translate to being a professional photographer. Like you can post like when the mood strikes you, when the right photo hits, when it's like something you're just doing for fun or whatever, or total freedom, you can post something that's amazing. But then when you've got to show up on the day and shoot the thing, and these are the conditions, like that's where being a real professional is the key. We're having the right guy that can show up, do the thing, and maybe not everything's perfect, or maybe, you have the experience to work within the situation. I mean, it might be a right situation, but if you have to be adaptable to everything.
Yeah,
And that's something I've always, it's always something
totally.
You're constantly learning.
I think, and you're totally right. And not to discredit that shooter, because he's done big stuff and amazing. I mean, he's just young and inexperienced. But the point being, it was like not because he sent his portfolio around to a million places like we did back in the day. The world's changed, so it's like, even more than ever, it's your social presence as a photographer, like your online presence, who and how you market yourself. I think really goes a long way, more so than we'd spend thousands of dollars on these printed. I don't know if you knew this era of like printed portfolios.
So I was doing design in that time. So I was doing design portfolios that way, and I'd go to the store in New York. There was those like portfolio stores on like 15th Street, like 15th Street. I can't remember what they're called, but there was like two stores, like 15th and 16th Street, like, and you would go and there's like a million you could choose from. There's like the aluminum portfolio things.
Oh
and
my God. It's very exciting.
Yeah. It was the best.
Yeah. You're like, yeah. What was the company that was, and they probably still exist, Live Books or something like that? There's like a famous book portfolio maker that you like custom etch your book cover and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, it's a lost art. I found my portfolio somewhere and the work was awful in there. I don't know why anybody hired me, to be honest. But
your history, I mean, your story is, you talked about like Rolling Stone doesn't do what they used to do. It's not the dream anymore. Like everything's changed. Magazines have changed. Your story is the story of adapting, like, and changing. You have like pivoted multiple times and changed, and like you have seen where things are going, and that's like an incredibly enviable skill, which we will get into. I would love to go through your celebrity car series, just because this was like some of the first work that I saw from you. Not really a good segue, but we're gonna.
No, that's fine. Whatever.
Okay, so tell us about this series, this shot, and then if anyone has any questions, they can add to the chat there.
Yeah, this is a real shot, mostly in camera, and I shot that in Arizona. I think I photoshopped out the palm trees in the background. So I did the Unicorn Project. I forgot why I called the Unicorn Project. I even think I have a write-up on my website. You do,
and I skimmed it, but I think it's about them all being totally unique, like one of a kind.
Yeah, I think my friend Daniel Deutsch came up with that term, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Essentially, I loved movie and TV cars. My family would be annoyed with me when we'd watch movies, and I just want to watch the ones with the cars on the posters, up until like my 30s, I think it was the same. So, it's everybody's dream to like do movie and TV car stuff. If you're a car shooter, not that I honestly don't think I'm that great of a car shooter. I'm okay. I'm more of a portrait guy, but I get hired for car stuff, like Arteon, and I didn't mess that one up. So that's good. But it was just something I was into. So I was traveling a lot for music stuff and other things. And so I thought like, oh, I should take portraits of the movie and TV cars. Like, and if I couldn't find them, because some shows those original cars don't exist anymore. Like Back to the Future, there's one, and it needed to be restored, and it was like back in a vault somewhere or like a warehouse at Universal until recently. So, I'd shoot replicas, but in a lot of times I would try and get access to like the original movie and TV vehicles, and I became sort of an expert actually, and I still am on sourcing movie and TV cars. I know who builds
Wow.
them, where they're stored, what happens to them after they're shot. I know the whole politics of it. I've been offered to buy some of the stunt vehicles in certain movies, like Fast and Furious. I almost bought one of like the F-bomb Camaros stunt vehicles, but it was like gutted interior, but the exterior was amazing.
Wow.
And and so yeah, I kind of networked thanks a lot to like my friends in the industry, like Nate Truman, head of Star Car Central. I just started networking within the industry, and it was like kind of like the early forums days, like 15, 20 years ago, where you can go on a website and kind of find people with like weird or unique hobby interests. So I started reaching out to people, and I just shoot these for fun on the road. But I'll
Yeah.
tell you what, this is my personal series always landed me much better projects. So like Robocop was like, he's one of my favorites. And so I found a guy that had like one of the original, he had bought a suit based on the original molds of the movie and then built a Ford Taurus police car. And he just got arrested for federal charges on selling meth, I think. So I was wondering where he
Okay.
got all his money for. So I guess rest in peace or whatever for him. But he, not this guy. This is my friend Paul. He's a good guy. He's not in jail. He's a director in
Yeah.
LA. But I meant RoboCop. I met the RoboCop guy.
Right.
He's
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah.
skip ahead. I just
No,
wanted
no, no.
to.
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. But yeah, he was interesting. Actually, kind of a weird dude. Just his whole vibe, and he would just. I don't mind saying 'cause he's in jail now, so he can't find me. But no, but it was cool, man. It was cool. Like people were really weirded out when we were doing this shoot in the middle of like Phoenix, Arizona. But it was fun, man. It was like I had this really big prints up on my wall from this shoot. I shot this my phase one. I owned a phase one at the time, a CCD back, and that camera treated me well over the years. This was, a lot of these ones I would just do. I liked my stuff looked composite-y, but I just liked overlighting. I would just use 1,000-watt strobes and put them right up to my subject. And so it was all single shot in camera. It was just sort of my vibe at the time.
It's so crisp. It's so cool. And like, I know it was like, I know your style's changed and I know that like trends have changed, but this stuff like holds up. Like, I think it looks really cool still. It's really arresting. Like it really grabs you.
Oh, thanks.
It's like, it's so intense. And I just love that like crisp, like sharpness and everything.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people would think, oh man, this is definitely composite. And I realized I'm okay at Photoshop. I've spoken on stage at Photoshop World, but my composite stuff is okay. But early on in my career, when I was super young, I realized that the best way to excel my work was in collaboration. And so I teamed up with my buddy Justin Paglia, who now like runs one of the biggest post houses in the world. But he was just like a young guy coming out of college too, and he wanted to team up with a good photographer and as a retoucher. So we would just partner up on stuff, and we would like collaborate. Like, I'm going to shoot this stuff, and he would like go cool, and then he would for pretty cheap, just kind of like honestly for the chance to have stuff in his portfolio, like my poker chip shot that you may have seen like back in the day.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's one of my most best known shots because people always go like, I love that shot. But that was one of our first shots Justin and I did together. And I credit to him honestly a lot. So it's like, I wish I could be like 90% of my shots I do post on myself. But even Justin helped on some post on the Arteon shoot to kind of like color grade it and line stuff up, clean it up out of loyalty. And he's just a cool dude. But yeah, I mean, I think some of my best work was stuff I did, my personal work, and stuff I did where I teamed up with like a really awesome collaborative team, like a really great retoucher where we just like got together and we're like, all right, this is what we need to do. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
anyway, this Christine shot was cool. Honestly, the background is not my favorite. That's not Justin's fault. We had limited space where we could shoot this car really quick, and we just kind of picked a spooky background and replaced it. And he did an awesome job on post. But Yeah, the guy was really there, car was really there, street was really there, and kind of like created that vibe.
That's
I think we
awesome.
had a
I
audience.
just watched this movie recently, so I love this image because I love the mystery and how dark it is and
Yeah,
how it's just very selective, like your eye goes very specific. It's very it's very channeling like where you look because it's such a small area that's like lit and colorized and everything. But
I
which
like
I
the
think is a really cool look.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I
I
mean,
like I said, I watched this movie recently for the first time, and it's very good. But yeah, so this was the car, like one of the ones from the movie.
I think it was a replica. There's like a
Okay.
really, I could go on a whole show on the people that own these vehicles, and the guy who owns this is a really nice guy. And he actually sends me a themed Christine birthday card every year for my birthday.
Oh my
It's like a
God, what a
picture of
guy!
Christine with like birthday candles and like blood for years, for like a decade.
Wow,
He does it every year.
wow.
Sweet guy. But it's really interesting. The car clubs circled around um, certain movie and TV cars are very interesting. You could do a whole anthropological study or sociological study on the people that own these vehicles and then start a club around them. I would tell you, guess which one is the worst club? And it's not Christine. The Christine folks are all pretty fun and silly. But what do you think's the worst movie car one?
The Back to the Future.
That's a good one, but actually, I'm a nerd. They're all pretty nerdy, but all good
Okay,
spirit. I'll give you one more guess. It is a
okay.
popular vehicle from the 80s.
Knight
And
Rider.
yeah, that's the worst one. That's the worst one. It's the worst. I don't want to disparage because I have friends in that community and I'm sure they'll probably agree. The car can
Yeah,
be had for cheap and then you get like parts for it. And I'm not saying it
right.
has anything to do about the cost or whatever, but hard to explain. But yeah, there's a lot of like the a lot of angry dudes in the Knight Rider world that are just
Yeah.
very very amped up about their particular season 2 or season 3 replica vehicles and like to fight about it online. It's
I gotcha.
very 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 interesting. I don't know why I'm still in that Facebook group, but it's like watching a car wreck. It's
Well,
very
yeah, it's not a big conversion on that. It's not like a Ghostbusters car or Back to the Future car where it's like you gotta like start with this car and then do all this
yeah.
stuff to it. Like that's like kind of the lights and that's and not and maybe a little bit of body
No,
stuff, but it's not a
yeah. You like dudes will do like the little like the bumper and the LED thing on the nose and the wheels. They
yeah,
won't get to the
yeah,
interior yet, but they'll just have
right.
like the bumper and the LED scanner, and they'll be like, "Yes, I'm the greatest," you know.
Remember that? Did you see that video going around a couple months ago where it was like the shot of the guy? It was like a stunt guy driving it for Knight Rider, and he was shaped like his clothes. It looked like a seat.
Oh yeah, actually, I've driven one of those cars.
No way. That's
So,
cool.
Joey, that's a weird story. So you know the Cannonball Run Countach, that's been going around. That's like
Is
on
it the one with the front wing?
yes, it's like the
Yeah.
$1 million car. Like
Yeah.
it's sitting at the yeah. So my buddy Jeff owns that car. I met through the Unicorn series, and I shot that car was part of my series a decade ago before he restored it. And he's had other cars, and I got involved in like this something called the Celebration Car Show, which is a charity event, and I've made many friends. Funny enough, this photo series is like yielded many contacts in the industry, which is one of the best gifts.
For sure.
But so during one of the Celebration Car shows, Joey Fatone of InSync,
Mhm.
nice guy also. He is a collector and kind of a big nerd. He has a big Superman room in his house. And again, I'm also a nerd about my own stuff, but he had a alleged screen used Knight Rider car, and it was one of the ones with the steering wheel in the back. And it was fully restored and all that. And we were doing this car event, and they needed somebody to transport the vehicle, some few of the vehicles across town. So they trusted me. They know I know how to drive. We had to go drive to Disney across from our event in Celebration, Florida. So about a 45 minute drive, but we were running late for this charity dinner. So they go, Doug, hop in the Knight Rider. And I literally hop in Joey's Knight Rider. and the Dumb and Dumber Diablo, and I think the Cannonball Run Countach, and we're all just racing full speed to make this event, like illegal speeds, across
Right.
Orlando. And I'm driving literally one of the like actual fully restored screen used Night Riders, like limo tint windows. And you should see the look
Wow.
on the children's faces as we're driving the Cannonball Run Countach, the Diablo from Dumb and Dumber,
Diablo.
and Night Rider. And we're just like, and it's really honestly feels extremely dangerous because separate from so many other factors. I don't know if you knew this, Night Rider is a mid to early 80s Pontiac. So with a half steering wheel and a bunch of blinding like lights that reflect off the windshield. In fact, I don't know how David Hasselhoff drove because all of those dash lights literally glow off the windshield and you can't see anything at night. You have to like turn them all off. It's
Wow.
blinding. Anyway.
Wow. That's incredible. That is incredible. Well, we got one more of this in this series.
Sorry, I keep on talking my
No. This is amazing. This is amazing. This
Yeah.
is from Tango and Cash, right?
Yes, that was the one surviving. It was at Cinema Vehicle Services, and Bob Hartwig, who has his own company. He loves Cinema Vehicle Services to start his own very successful movie car company. If you watch like NBC or CBS, any of the like cop shows where they have like cabs or cop cars or like the Lethal Weapon show, all those cop cars and like the character cars, he provides all them. And but yeah, this was one of the vehicles he had, and he had one of the not Smoking the Bandit, Dukes of Hazzard,
Oh yeah.
actual movie stunt vehicles, and it was like $1 million car, and he did a burnout for the series as well.
Yeah, I've seen the video and the photo of that. The cool thing about your series is you like some of these you shot with like a model to be like a stand-in, but then you also shot one with the owner of the car, and and so like and you get and I didn't include those, but the link is on the website, and I'll have anything that we talk about that's not shown here. I will link to specifically in the description. But yeah, that is really cool. I wanted to talk about your own car history because you are a huge like car enthusiast. And I'm going to try to go through. And you just fill in the blanks. But let me try to guess because since I've known you, you've had like a billion cars. But I think
So let me preface this by saying I am not a rich fellow. My friends go, "How can you afford to do X, Y, Z?" Well, I never had children, so that's how I did it. I want to preface this by saying I've had a couple midlife crisis vehicles, and now that I'm middle aged, but it was always my dream. So I own two companies. My childhood best friend I've known for 30 years. We used to read Road and Track and Motor Trend in study hall and dream of the cars we'd have. So for us, obviously we, save for taxes and save for savings and all that when we can. But, you make like a little bit of money. You're like, what's the first thing you're going to do? Not buy a house. We're definitely going to buy, buy cars. And I counted, I've had 20 vehicles since in the last 24 years.
Okay, wow.
And
well, no one's judging you here for having cool cars. Everyone here thinks it's good. So I remember I don't remember what you've had when we were on my radar, but then I remember you got an S4.
Stasis S4, yeah. B8
okay,
Stasis,
yeah.
Stasis chipped S4, yeah.
What was that? What was before that?
I'll just rattle off some random ones.
Well, I remember you had the yeah. Okay, you just go for it.
66.
I was going to try to guess, but I can't name 20.
No, 66 Mustang convertible, C6 Corvette, A6, couple of A6s over the years, couple of Jeep Grand Cherokees over the years, 69 Mach 1 clone. That car tried to kill me a few times.
That was a cool car. I remember when you got that.
That was a great car. It kept on giving me carbon monoxide poisoning, but it was a good car. A lot of charm.
Yeah.
I've had a 1990 Bronco with a whole police like push bar package. I've had my AMG GTS. That was a car I think I'd like to get another one of those at some point. It was a lovely car. Honestly,
whenever
really,
I mentioned it, you would always correct me that it's the S. You'd say that S cost
that
a lot of money.
That's a big deal.
That's an expensive letter.
I mean, that was the nicest car I ever had, and to get that, the GT that's the basic bitch one. You don't want that. The GTS, that's the one with the extra performance bits and all that. Oh God, I'm blanking, but I've definitely had a 300 Mercedes 300 TE 4MATIC station wagon, Range Rover Sport supercharged, Range Rover long wheelbase supercharged. A variety, I don't know. It all kind of
Yeah,
just, I've had a lot of weird stuff, and now my current vehicles are probably my wackiest. I
you've got the GX.
Yeah, I got a GX 470 at the height of the pandemic. It's strangely doubled in value since then. It's been lifted, big wheels and tires, welded armor on the front and rear bumpers, rock sliders, 15,000 pound winch. I got a CB radio, not CB radio, GMRS radio. I got my license and all
Okay.
that. Off-road lights, and I've taken that all over the country with my dog and national parks and all that. It was great when I lived in LA.
Yeah.
And then I just bought, thanks to my friends at Hudson Stables, I just bought a 964 C4 manual. And I like your shirt. I'm turning it into a Safari 911 wide body build.
Yes.
It'll be probably one of the few of its kind. We're doing my Elephant Racing off-road suspension kit's coming. It's in shipment right now, and we're doing it's a narrow body C4. So, but it's we're gonna do the turbo body, and we're gonna roll the fenders. So we're gonna make it have a nice little extra lips for clearance.
Okay.
But it's gonna be a true wide body. We're gonna, strip out the interior, and I have a bunch of other like little bits that I'm having custom made. So that's my baby. That's the one.
That's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Is that in LA or is that in California now?
It's in New York City,
It's in
actually.
New York. Okay. Is it
Yeah.
gonna stay in New York with you?
Yep. It's gonna
You're
go
so you're in New York like full
no,
permanently,
yeah. Yep.
or
I moved to
as
Midtown.
permanent as it can be
Yeah,
for you.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm in Midtown. My GX is parked under my building. It's very funny because it's so gigantic and it's so charming, and it's got nearly 200,000 miles, and it's parked next to M5. And everybody always is like, "What the heck is that?" They're like a 2008 GX 470. Definitely, it's like a very strange vehicle. People, especially in the East Coast, you don't see a lot of them. People are like, what even is that? Get asked that a lot, and I get it. But it's been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful truck. I love it
Old
because it's
old
so hard.
Lexuses. There's something nice about
Yeah,
an old
yeah,
Lexus where it's like it's a good car, it's like a great value, and it's like made well and comfortable.
yeah, yeah.
You
It's
know?
been, I mean, pretty. Other than like a couple trim pieces, it's been pretty perfect. And then, yeah, the Safari 911, building that together with friends, and I've always wanted to build a nice car that is to my spec. I mean, as car people, your dream is to create a vehicle that's truly yours, and to do something where I can, since I produce for Nat Geo, I'd like to take something I go out in the field with, and enjoy. So I plan on driving the hell out of it. Should be done in the next 6 months, I hope. But yeah,
That's
so a lot of
awesome.
wacky vehicles, and I'm into bikes now and stuff too. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, we have a little bit of time left. I don't want to run through the pictures way too
No,
fast,
I'm
but
sorry. Yeah, go
no,
for it.
no, no, no. We just need more time. You've got so many good stories, so much like great, advice and history, and like this will be like a to be continued. But I love going through this and sharing this, and I know that like
Thank you.
people watching this are gonna get so much out of this. So I'm gonna go through just a couple more pictures because we've still got like more to go through. I don't know
Sure.
why my Dropbox is going so slow, so we're gonna have to talk through it. But
Here you go.
this was a suit and the rocket. And tell us more about what we're seeing here.
Yeah, that was the prototype Mars spacesuit. It's called the Biosuit. I know it doesn't look like much because it's like it's based on, they built it with a motorcycle manufacturer, but they wanted to show based on the environment in Mars that you could build a much more flexible suit. And that's actually the MIT professor, former like NASA head, or like she was fairly high up at NASA. Lovely lady. Her and her partner, they met while designing the International Space Station, and then came up with this. They were like on the sailboat around the world, and he was fixing their hydraulic system on their boat, stranded in the middle of the ocean with olive oil they just got from Rome, and under the boat swimming and welding or whatever. And she was sitting there on the boat, and she came up with the concept of the biosuit, and so this was it. And I saw a Gizmodo article a million years ago well, I was new at the time, when they announced it. It was just point and shoot shots at MIT campus. And I'm like, that's a travesty. And it's like very hard to actually be able to, as a photographer, I'm sure many of us know, you want to shoot a spacesuit. It's very exciting, but it's very actually hard to get your hands on one. And even if you want to rent one, it's
And it's hard
thousands
to
of
go
dollars
to,
a day.
it's really hard to go to space to show it in an
Yeah,
environment.
that's actually also a challenge of mine. So
Yeah.
we did go to space for this, which was good.
Yeah, that's
Um,
good.
so no, I cold called her MIT phone number, her faculty phone number, and I go, "Hi, I'm a photographer. I'm going to email you. I would like to take photos of your suit." And she goes, "Okay," because I go, "Your photos aren't very good." Nicely, it was just like, and she goes, "Yeah, it was just like one of my like PhD students, just like with their point and shoot." And so she's like, "You should fly down to Cape Canaveral and we can shoot it in one of the rocket engines or something." And I go, "Okay." And I was pretty broke at the time, so I just put on my credit card and I just went out there and had some guy like help me. And I wish I shot more behind the scenes of this shoot because I was just super broke and I didn't have anybody else to shoot behind the scenes. I didn't have like cameras to do time lapses. This is an old shot. But we just went nuts. I had like heat stroke, but I just ran around NASA, like Cape Canaveral with just her in this suit. And she was super sweet and super cool. She was like getting these nice photos. And literally like Forbes magazine last week hit me up to use one of these photos. It's been
Wow.
licensed a million times. It's been in museums. It's been in like published books on the future of space travel. It's been like really interesting that these photos have been like used in Discovery Channel a bunch. And again, it was a personal project where I just cold called them and I go, I just want to do this. And I ended up very much making my money back. And it wasn't about money though, but it's just been like
Yeah.
one of my favorite shoots for sure. I mean, look at it. It's so neat. It's a really cool shot.
It looks like you could have shot this yesterday. It looks so contemporary and high
Thanks.
quality and awesome. You've got, I should have like gone through these first so they
No,
look
I
like preloaded or
whatever.
something. No, I
Yeah.
mean I should have preloaded them so there wasn't this lag. This you told me this story of this. I couldn't believe it. Again, this is like this hustle, this seeing opportunities in the world and or just making an opportunity out of nothing when there wasn't one. And that is like such a theme, and that is extremely admirable, and I need that quality. And I think you will inspire me to think that way a little more. So please tell us about this.
Yeah, I knew a buddy that was a FA-18 pilot, and I was like, I want to take portraits of pilots, the jets, and he's like, oh, okay. And we just he just walked me on base. If you have somebody just like walk you on base, I just brought my lights. I had like my business partner Nick was with me, and we just he just held the lights because we just like got really tall stands. That's just I climbed up on the wing. That's me standing on a wing of an FA-18. And I took a portrait, and I had like my white lightning strobes, my trusty white lightning strobes for many years. They're great. And you couldn't beat them up. They've lasted through everything. So it was just a white lightning, I think, on a beauty dish, just extended up on the stand, and I had like little vagabond battery packs, and just shot these. And I would like overlight everything because I loved creating a spotlight on my subjects, and then I could darken the ambient and the environment, and so that's how you kind of get that dark mood. But yeah,
I dig that.
So yeah, it was just literally just something I really wanted to do, and I got to actually, I think it's been a long time, but I think I actually got to sit in there, and I think we got away with it because I offered portraits of everybody in his squadron, and so I took portraits of everybody with the jet, and they loved it. They're just like regular dudes, so obviously just fucking heroes. Pardon my language. Flying fighter jets, it's dangerous thing, and so took photos, and they were super happy. Gave them all the photos, and they let me let me put on a flight suit and climb up in the jet and do some cool pictures. I have this cool photo of me, like super serious, like standing on a wing on an
That's
F-18.
awesome.
But that's, yeah, I felt pretty badass for sure getting that.
This one is another one of your most famous images.
Oh yeah,
Another suit.
yeah.
This is so cool. Like I remember when you first published this, and it was just like the coolest thing. And this was like very like between like Daft Punk albums. Like it's very
Yeah.
like of that vibe.
Yeah, people think it's a composite, but actually, this is, if you go on my website, SondersPhotography.com, there's actually behind the scenes video of this shoot. This is Nelson, Nevada, which is this weird place like 30 minutes outside of Vegas, and you give them like a donation, and they have like a pretend plane crash, and this is the middle of the road, and there's traffic goes by, but you hear them coming for miles away. So we could like stand out there, and if a car's coming, we'd step away, you'd hear it. But then these suits were made by friends of mine that build like robot suits and perform, and I just always kind of want to shoot them. And they're like, I was in town, and it was like, again, one of these things where I'm just like, I just want to do it. And I always carried my gear with me, which is really annoying carrying 200 pounds of equipment with you, but I would just do it. And so again, one of those days where I got heat stroke again. But yeah, we climbed out there and just shot the heck out of it. And honestly, it's not a lot of post-production. It's like kind of color grading, a little bit of cleanups, removed a shadow in the foreground of my light stand. But other than that, this is all in camera. And it was just a matter of just posing them, and I rolled around the ground a lot of my shots. I ruined a lot of pants and shirts. If you look behind the scenes, you'll definitely see me rolling around the ground at least once.
Where was the light in this? Was it on the
to the left? You can see the specular brightness of their helmets. And to be honest, I probably could have shot this natural light and just like fixed it in post, but I loved creating that shadow. You can see the shadow on their feet.
I love that extra, that pop, that crisp pop that it gives it is super cool. And that was like an early inspiration for me was, lighting stuff in the day to really kind of change the ambience.
Yeah.
Let's move on through this one. I just loved the lighting in this. Like, again, like this is, the type of portrait I would, aspire to shoot like today. It's just it's such a cool look. And
Nice.
I feel like this is, again, like really contemporary. I know you probably did this like 9 years ago or 10 years ago, but that's obviously Dale Earnhardt Jr. 14? Oh, 2014? Okay, yeah. So just a great environmental portrait.
I did all the new team photos for him, like for that year. I think it was one of the last years he ever raced. It was fun. Super sweet guy. I've worked with him a couple of times over the years. He was friends with Three Doors Down. First time I drank moonshine, completely illegal moonshine, on the infield of a NASCAR race. I had moonshine, awesome. Like strawberry moonshine. And it really apparently does not take me much to get wasted up. So anyway, but
seems like a good dude.
Sweet guy, very, very nice guy, very, very polite. And it was a fun shoot. I love doing portraits. So again, it's like we did fully lit, overhead light and stuff. Clinton Davis was nice enough to assist me on this shoot. He's a good dude, super talented shooter. It's good shot done. Charlotte he owns a photo studio, Hammerhead.
Oh, cool.
That's actually Dale Jr. studio that he owns.
We've got this one. You told me about this project, and I want to hear about it. I just love this, like, because this is like the one that's like the most relatable for me, where it's like, you're going on a road trip with your best bud, and you've got, I don't know why I said best bud, but you got a road trip, and you got your friend there, and you're both in the shot, and the car's there, and it's like the silhouette sunset, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I never, when I do road trips, I never like get myself in there. I never set up something, and so this was a cool shot.
Yeah, it was an Esquire advertorial. They dressed us, and I got to do it with my business partner and childhood best friend, Nick. I mean, usually you find if you see me, he's not far behind. He's literally, his hotel room's like one floor below mine. We were here on this shoot in San Francisco for Amazon ad campaign this week. And anyway, the client knows us, and they're like, Doug and Nick, we evoked the GLE 450, I guess, when it was announced. And so the coupe, the X6 kind of one. And so I said, if we give you a bunch of money, will you road trip it and just take pictures and write a couple blogs and just really, really like live luxuriously? And so, we just like drove between LA and Vegas, had some Wagyu steak. I just stopped in some like really fun little spots along the way, shot photos of Red Rocks, and we didn't even really have to shoot that much stuff. It was just more about the blog post. And they were nice enough to have the Esquire magazine folks like dress us, buy clothes for us. But the truth is we didn't really need, there was a lot of guidance on this one, but we had fun. Successful campaign. It was like one of these weird ones where they just gave you some money and they go, here's a new, beautiful, like AMG Mercedes, go on a road trip and make stuff. But I appreciate that clients honestly trust us to just make stuff and that we'll get it done. That's sort of
Yeah.
like our way, is that no matter what you hire us, it's just whatever it takes. It's the job's going to get done. A story for another time. I don't know if you ever saw a giant like almost naked Borat float through New York City, Canada, and London. We didn't do the London one. We did Canada and New York, Hudson River. If you look it up, a Borat float.
Okay. Yeah, I remember this.
We actually produced that. So and we dealt with helicopters, the Canadian government, and like all in like 1 week notice. It was just the barges, the chase boats, the team of like 20 camera people, so we could put out a sizzle about the stunt within hours of the event happening on Amazon's platforms. So no matter what, clients know, they call us, and just that's sort of my nature. Even when I was a photographer, if I put my mind to it, it just got done, whatever it took.
Yeah, well, that's a really good code to live by. I'm going to run through to this last. I'm just going to skip to this one. This was one of your dog, your pit bull, not a bully series.
Yeah.
I believe, and it's like a really good cause and a good like advocacy and exposure thing. And so, please tell us a little bit about this project.
Yeah. So this is a really interesting one. I'm not like a dog photographer. I mean, this is a fine photo, I'm sure. But it's so I have this. That's my old boxer Winston tattoo. This is the only tattoo I have, and great story about that tattoo, also for another time. But only tattoo I have is my old dog Winston. My Safari 911 is named Winston after my dog.
Cool.
He used to road trip with me everywhere. He was my trusty companion, and when he was dying, people drove from hours away to pay respects to him, even though I never asked them to. People just came and loved on him and wanted to say goodbye because he was such a beloved dog. And so it was very heartbreaking for me. And one day I woke up and I wanted to adopt a new dog. And so I went to an event and I saw this like adorable, I was going to get another boxer, but then there's this lovely, classy Black Panther of a lady, Emma, my pit bull. She was this very stoic, very polite, gentle Staffy. And I adopted her. I did no intentions of having a pit bull. And I thought it was kind of like a nuisance to have a pit bull and be a single guy moving to apartments. Not that she was a nuisance, but like, dealing with the politics, it wasn't in my radar to deal with that. And it was a different time. It was, oh my gosh, like 12, 13 years ago. The narrative on pit bulls has changed a lot since then. But so Emma was a sweetie, always been a sweetie. She's an old lady now. We would jog around Washington, D.C., and people would literally run away screaming from us. And I'm not a very imposing guy, I don't think. And Emma, very sweet. And so
you do work out a lot. You could have been.
I was like 20 pounds lighter then. Okay. And but I put like a little cute little coat on her so people would like not be afraid of her, and people would still. One lady, I remember running up to my building, and I'm literally trying to get the entrance to my apartment, and some lady sees us coming, and rather than just kind of like walk around like this as we're walking to the building, she starts just backing up and like puts her back up against the door of the building, and she's just passing by and screams. And Emma's just standing there looking at her like this, and I go, "Ma'am, I'm just trying to enter my apartment building." She thought we were like, I don't know, stalking. I no idea what she was thinking, but the point of the story is that she was terrified of Emma and was like just frozen in fear. And I literally was just trying to go home. So I wanted to do something about it. It's sort of my nature. So I said, in my own little way, I wanted to create an initiative where I told the story of really inspiring pit bulls that serve their community. So I put the word out, and when I lived in DC, and people would reach out to me with like these incredible stories of dogs that have been like beaten and abused and like shot, and they would survive and then like go serve in children's hospitals or go like be like help like rescue other dogs. Like, they were amazing dogs, amazing stories. And this little lady, had a tough life and was serving like an amazing family. And it's been so long, but like was like serving like helped a little girl who was like very sick, and to have a companion. And anyway, but I was like very passionate about it, and just like with everything I do, I'm like 150%.
Mhm.
I was doing like lecture series on photography. And so every time I did lecture series, I would use a raw file to kind of go through, my raw process. And I would always use photos from this series. And I would use that opportunity to talk about Not a Bully on purpose, because I wanted people to learn about how pitties are good. And so I
Yeah.
had hundreds of people in front of me, at a given event. And so I'd always talk about it. And one of the vice president at Geo was attending, she was a fan of my photography, was very nice, and she attended, walked up to me and goes, "Hey, we're producing a new Pitbull series with Cesar Millan, and we'd love for you to help." And Jen has now become a dear friend. She's, oh my God, the best. But it was such a funny thing. That's how she is. She follows her gut. And was like, "Ew, you should help with this." And literally I was helping the Cesar Millan Dog Whisperer team help produce this Pitbull special, and like helped hook up things in DC. And they went to Capitol Hill, and we were fighting breed specific legislation that was like banning these dogs in certain cities. So like this whole photo series literally led to me. And then I was actually in the TV special. So being in the TV special, helping fight the breed specific legislation on the international level, because I still get emails, even though that was so many years ago. People still email me today because they play reruns of that show. And then from there, I now am producing content for Nat Geo, stuff can't talk about, but like that actually. So Emma, my lovely Pipple, is the reason that I am doing work for Nat Geo actively now, and their VR stuff, literally just from this series. So literally changed my life, honestly. And also my current work for Amazon, which we're currently running a majority of Amazon's global event content, because we helped them transition to remote filming content through the pandemic. And we've been shooting ads for them for half a decade now. And that was literally a friend, my friend Tara, who I met through Dog Rescue. And she was like, "Oh, I work at Amazon now. We should have your production company work for us." Literally, again, all from the series. So this
That's
series,
incredible.
this photo of a dog, is the reason that I am here in San Francisco shooting an ad campaign for Amazon. That we, like, our biggest clients right now are literally because of Emma. So
Wow.
like changed my whole life. That Safari 911 is paid for by Emma. And so, and this photo series. So I know it seems like a photo of a dog, but honestly, it was
That's
all
so
like,
much more.
it literally changed my life. It literally changed my life.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. I mean, and we are out of time, but I'll leave on one more thing. But I remember reading, I've read interviews with you over the years and stuff, and you always talk about the doing personal projects and how much it's been an important part of your career. And so do you have any kind of personal project upcoming or in the works, or what you're thinking about doing next?
Um, Not actively. There's stuff I'd like to do. I've been talking to a few musicians. There's a band called Gunship that I've been talking to them
I love
about.
the gunship. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So I've been talking to Dan over at Gunship and harassing him. We've been talking about doing a augmented reality activation with some new work they have coming. I like creating AR experiences. I like to, for fun, even though we own an AR company where we develop medical tech in the aerospace. We actually hold a few provisional patents. That's a whole thing. That's our other company. And like I said, a lot of pivots.
Yeah.
And then, I'm talking to a few other musician friends where I just want to create content for fun. I'm very lucky that we're busy enough that I can do personal work that I enjoy and not have to ask them to pay me. And honestly, even when I was broke, I did stuff because I believed in it, like
Yeah.
the dog series, and now look what it's done for me. So, stuff I believed in something, whenever I felt my gut and just did it just because it was really special, then it literally always paid off. Always paid off.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I think that's a good thing to end on. Is there anything you want to promote or plug? I'm so sorry we didn't get to talk about like your VR and production and
That's
directing, but we'll have to do another one of these and talk again,
cool.
because like it's fascinating and you have so much good advice and stories, and just like I love hearing it and looking at the work. So thank you. Yeah. So is there anything you want to promote or anything?
No,
Stay
hey,
tuned. Follow your Instagram for your future 9/11 posts. I think people will like
yeah,
seeing your 9/11 safari come to life.
yes, please do. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's my fun. That's really my fun project right now. I'm a huge, huge, huge car guy, and I've been saving my pennies for a long time. And so to be able to do this build and to do it with friends. We're going to be hand fabricating a lot of parts, and I'll be driving the hell out of it.
Maybe a video series on the production.
Yeah, we're talking to a publisher about doing a video series on the build. It won't be anything fancy because it'll probably just be me shooting it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm just it's not like shoving in people's faces. I'm just just like with my cheap, like very cheap Lexus that I built up and I love very much. Some certain people love that thing, and it's just what I'm into. I love sharing the story. So by all means, follow me if you want to see, random production behind the scenes and see my silly 911 build, just because I'm very passionate about it. It's just what I enjoy. So I want to share with my new friends on the internet about it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're going to call it a show, but yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and follow Doug because he's a great guy. So, all right. See you, everyone.
Thanks.